Hi, Dav here, and today we have a new episode in the art review series. And today we'll be checking out the work of CC Wen, or Magic Sheep. Now, they do have an art station, obviously. I will link to this page, by the way, or these links in the description below. But I'll be focusing more on the Twitter page or X page because it's a lot more consistent, meaning for me, I do like the black and white vibe more. It's more, I don't know, consistent. Anyway, so a lot of their work is mostly like gestural. I feel like I think this artist has been influenced by a lot of fashion illustrators, because if you look at fashion like artists, illustrators, they do tend to have this style where they paint with a really fine brush, oftentimes with India ink. And it's well, it's not just that, but as you can tell by the subject matter, it's usually women, and they're not like in a compromising position. They're mostly sort of fashiony. Is that a word? Like they tend to focus more on poses that are fashion-esque, right? I do like the way the heels are done, the legs, everything just flows really well. And I think these are great examples of gesture studies. I mean, look at how simple it is, right? It's not really that defined, but you can tell what this subject or this person is doing. In this case, this chick is holding a glass, a champagne glass, and she's kind of on one leg, basically being playful in a way. And you can tell she's wearing some kind of, I'm not sure what to call it. I'm forgetting the name. It's like you use it for baking or when you're in the kitchen. It's some kind of drape. I forgot, right? It's so nice to look at. And I do like the line weight because it does vary for each stroke. Like it's not just one line where you have like one size set. It does change via the pen pressure. I also like these ones where they do add some shading, in this case the shadows, and they're using some kind of watercolor looking brush. I think it really fits with the gestural sort of ink lines of the figure, right? Even the way the hand is done, look at how it's positioned. It looks like she's supposed to be sitting in a high chair, and the tabletop is she's kind of laying both of her arms at this tabletop, right? It's a good study, right? Even the face, you can just simplify it that way. You don't have to go overboard. And for these types of artwork, you're supposed to see, like you're trying to capture the moment as a whole. In this case, they're focusing more on the character, right? So you don't have to zoom in, basically. If you look at the bottom left, or the left leg, look at how the knee was done. Very simple, but it works. Like you can tell it's a knee, and it looks anatomically correct. I do like the bleed looks, or the bleed sort of thing happening where at the end of your pen stroke, it does get thicker sometimes. So it does have, again, that ink sort of look or calligraphy look. It just makes your line work a bit more dynamic looking and less boring, right? Now for this one, the rendering, I do like it for the dress. It looks like it's kind of a mixture between a watercolor brush or watercolor wash rendering and a charcoal sort of sketch, right? So obviously they were starting off with the gesture study of this chick, and then I think they moved on to trying to study the dress or the folds a little more in the dress. And look at how it's so easily suggested, right? There's no color here. It's all just gray values, but you can tell like the volume of it. Like it feels like it has size, or maybe not size, but it has, volume. Like it feels like a solid thing. And I think they did a good job with the rendering here. Because if you have like a good amount of value variety, the more likely you're going to see that thing as a solid thing. And basically it doesn't look as flat, right? Because of the variation in terms of the values. It looks so natural too, which I like. It's a good mix, right? And when you do these sorts of things, it helps you just simplify. For example, if you look at the hand, not the one that's touching her head, the other one kind of in the 90-degree position. Look at how the fingers were suggested. The thumb, the fingers, you can clearly tell it's been kind of, it's like a ball position, right? Even with the legs, the way the heels are suggested is all just one thing. And it all feels like they're all coming from like one line. Obviously, it's not just one line, right? But it's very essential. Like you're not trying to, even if the lines do overlap, it does happen. It doesn't really matter because you're still trying to. I think the main point here is to just capture the essentials. You have to be sort of what's the word, minimalistic in your approach, because it is true, you don't need much to be able to capture something. And I mean, there are other kinds of studies where you do 1:1, where you use harder, straighter lines, where you start measuring stuff like that. But I think if you're more of the playful type of artist, and maybe you're not as technical, I think gesture drawings are a great way for you to study something without being too sort of strict with your shapes, because it's more flowy, it's more spiritual in a sense. And I mean, look at this. Even though it's a sketch, technically, it feels like a full image, a full illustration. And the reason why is it has something that's not original, but it just has that spirit, right? Which you can capture via gesture drawings. If you go online and just search for gesture drawings, a lot of them, even if they're done with ballpoint pens, even if they're done so quickly, not much rendering involved, just a bunch of lines, it still looks finished or looks complete in a way, because the spirit of the thing is there. Because there are illustrations out there that are super rendered, super like illustrated, but it just doesn't feel like it's finished. And the reason why is obviously it doesn't have something behind it, right? And I think these types of drawings are a great sort of practice for you to do, to be able to kind of understand that concept, right? Very interesting. Again, a bit of that ink look, or the watercolor look, like Sumi-E style, SUMI-E, right? And it really does fit with the flowy, like that fine brush pen look looks well, or looks good with this kind of gesture sketch approach. Definitely take a look at a lot of fashion illustrators. They're very good at this kind of thing. You can learn so much just by studying different artists, right, in different fields, because they have their own way of doing things. And oftentimes we're just too focused on our own world that we forget that there are so many other artists out there that have a very interesting voice. I love the way the bend is happening in the lower torso, in the midsection, the belly, right? You can see the belly button right there. It's being twisted, and you can just capture the movement this way, right? I'm really liking the legs and the heels, how they're like the shorthand version of it. It's so cool. Very simple, but the story is there. Oh, this one's nice. Some shadow work. It looks like they're going for a dry brush look, so you don't really see some thinner lines here. I mean, you do see a little bit in the hair and in the legs, but a lot of the work is happening with this very brushy bristle brush in the coat or jacket, right? But again, look how minimalistic it is. In this case, they're using a negative approach, right? Instead of drawing out the contours of the torso, you use the shadows of the coat, in the interior of the coat to sort of define the edge of that torso via contrast, right? So it's a black and white with no lines. Pretty cool, right? Seeing it from the back. And what's cool is you don't even have to finish everything. You can just pick and choose which parts you want to illustrate, focus on, right? Play with. You can use negative shapes like this one. You can render some of them in grayscale, right? Look at that. Well, the face does look a little more realistic. It is a mixture, I think, of that charcoal rendering look with the watercolor rendering or painting style. Very interesting. I'm not sure what they do. Maybe they are a fashion person. We have a traditional thing here. Oh, some traditional graphite sketches, pencil sketches. Oh, I like this one. It's kind of a a cowgirl, right? And again, look at traditional like Chinese slash Japanese like paintings, they have this vibe, very watercolor-esque, sumi style, very fluid to look at. Well, even some works of Kim Jung-gi kind of look this way as well, or a lot of like traditional Korean artists. Check out like Super Annie. It's kind of an art sort of group. They have the same thing sometimes, and they do like using the brush pen. In this case, oh, I do see. It's still a brushy, way more blacks, deep blacks, but with some grayscale values along the face. Pretty cool. It reminds me, it's kind of like Elisa as well, even though she does focus more on pencil sketches or graphite sketches. They have the same sort of fluidity, I think. Here, as you go further down, you do see more color being used, which is still cool, but I do prefer, or what got my attention was these types of sketches. Very natural looking, very smooth, and just my thing. So if you're trying to work on your gesture drawings, or if you haven't heard of it, my recommendation is to try this kind of approach, especially if you're not super... Oh, there's a guy named Nemri. I'm forgetting the name. I think he works with Super Annie as well. I'm not sure. Nemri, I'll try to link his work in the description below. Nemri something. But he has the same vibe. I think he likes to use like a calligraphy pen or a dip pen. It has the same vibe to it, right? So yeah, I recommend trying this technique out. I mean, you can always add colors later on, which is fine, but I think you'll really enjoy doing things in just black and white, and maybe once in a while adding a bit of like grayscale, rendering or painting underneath it, right? But it's definitely a great way to do your studies because it's not too serious. It seems more playful. It seems more natural. And it feels that way. It feels and seems and looks more natural. Because it doesn't have to be an either or where you do technical studies or none at all. You can just do something like this where it's more loose, more playful. It feels like you're dancing, or your pen or stylus is dancing. Is dancing across the page. And the challenge is to try to capture the story in as less lines as possible. And I think you can learn a lot from this. For example, if you look at the leg below, the heel and the leg are just one thing. The heels and the leg, right? Like you don't have to define everything. Try to capture the story, the gesture, the spirit of something with enough lines, right? If you can do that, I think your other more rendered, more finished, more illustrations can benefit from this kind of thing. So that's it for this art review of... Oh, let me check this. Ooh. Yeah, so that's it for this art review of CC Wen, or Magic Shape. And I will link the links in the description below. And yeah, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.